already know what it is. Detroit Lions, Dubski, we going home, man. We going to see Cleveland next week, man. You already know what it is. Go Lions!
Detroit, we need to talk. Because right now, Lions Twitter is on fire, group chats are melting down, and it all started with one cocky tweet that has aged like a carton of milk left out in the July heat. This is Detroit Scope, and if you're new here, welcome to the family. We are closing in on 1,000 subscribers, and honestly, we cannot get there without you. So if this video gives you something good to chew on, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button before we get into this, because trust me, you're going to want to be part of this conversation. Now let's set the scene, because the drama here is almost too perfect to be real. Just yesterday, safety Kerby Joseph resurfaced on social media after basically going dark for months. No updates, no health reports, nothing. Radio silence from the Lions' all-pro ballhawk since the tail end of last season, when his knee injury turned into one of the most confusing storylines in Detroit sports. And how does Kerby choose to break his silence? Not with a health update. Not with a "here's how my rehab is going" post. No, the man hops back on Twitter, starts dancing around, posting like everything is fine. And when a doctor following the team floats the idea that Kerby might start training camp on the physically unable to perform list, the PUP list, Kerby claps back with total confidence. He basically dares the internet to bet against him, saying something to the effect of, "How much y'all want to bet I'm not on there?" Bold, confident. Very Kerby Joseph energy. And then, less than 24 hours later, the Detroit Lions official Twitter account drops the announcement everybody was bracing for. Brian Branch, Tyler Conklin, and yes, Kerby Joseph have all officially been declared physically unable to perform heading into training camp. In the words of a certain iconic game show host, "Come on down, you're the next contestant on, I should have kept my mouth shut." Because here's the thing about betting against the house, Kerby, you usually lose more than you win. And this time, the house won big. Now, before Lions fans start spiraling into full-blown panic mode, let's actually break down what happened here, because there's a difference between "this is mildly embarrassing" and "this is a disaster." And right now, we're squarely in embarrassing territory, not disaster territory. But the internet doesn't really care about nuance right now. The reaction across Lions social media has been somewhere between concerned and downright furious, and it's easy to see why. Let's start with the player nobody actually saw coming, Tyler Conklin. This one is genuinely confusing. There was no reported injury, no off-season update, nothing that would have tipped fans off at the tight end sign this offseason would be starting camp on the shelf. If you're a Lions fan trying to figure out why your new tight end is already banged up before he's played a single snap in Honolulu blue, you are not alone. Nobody has a clean answer for this one yet. And that mystery alone is enough to make you do a double take at the PUP list. Then there's Brian Branch, and honestly, nobody should be shocked here. Branch suffered an Achilles injury back in December, and anyone who has followed an Achilles recovery timeline knows this isn't a quick fix. Achilles injuries typically keep players out for the better part of the year, and Branch was never a realistic bet to be full go on day one of training camp. If anything, putting him on PUP is just the Lions following the medical calendar. This is the least surprising part of the entire announcement, and if you were shocked by Brian Branch being on this list, respectfully, you weren't paying attention this offseason. But then there's Kerby, and Kerby is the one setting Lions Twitter ablaze right now. Here's why this one stings differently than Branch's situation. With Kerby, we genuinely have no idea what's going on. All offseason, head coach Dan Campbell was cagey, almost suspiciously cagey, every time reporters brought up Kerby's knee. Every single time, the timeline seemed to shift. First it was he'll be ready for OTAs. Then it was we'll evaluate him in minicamp. Then radio silence. It became almost a running joke among Lions media. Ask Dan Campbell about Kerby Joseph's knee, and watch him move the goalposts one more time. And now, add in the fact that last season, Kerby played in only a handful of games before quietly disappearing from the box score without ever officially landing on injured reserve. There was no clean explanation given at the time. He was just there, and then he wasn't, and Lions fans were left connecting dots with no real information to go on. So when you take all of that uncertainty, roll it up with Kerby vanishing from social media for months, and then have him pop back up dancing around like nothing's wrong right before getting placed on the PUP list anyway. Yeah, that's a recipe for a fan base losing its collective mind. It's not really about the PUP designation itself. It's about everything that led up to it. The silence. The mixed signals. The tweet that aged in real time, like a time-lapse video of fruit rotting on a kitchen counter. So now the real question everybody wants answered. What does this actually mean for the Detroit Lions and their Super Bowl aspirations this season? Let's break down the PUP list itself, because there's a lot of misinformation floating around right now, and most of it is making the situation sound way worse than it actually is. Players get placed on the active PUP list at the start of training camp because of a football-related injury. These players count against the active roster, and this is the important part. They're allowed to participate in every single team activity except actual practice. They can meet with coaches, sit in on film sessions, lift weights, do conditioning work, everything except step onto that practice field and take a snap. And crucially, any of these 3 players can be activated off the PUP list at literally any point during training camp, the moment they're medically cleared. This isn't a life sentence. It's a waiting room. Here's where it gets more serious, though. If a player is still on the PUP list when the team makes its final roster cutdowns before the season, they get moved to something called the reserve PUP list. And once you're on reserve PUP to start the regular season, you are required to miss a minimum of the first 4 games. No exceptions, no early comebacks. 4 games, guaranteed, minimum. So really, there are 3 doors here for Kerby Joseph, and Detroit Scope is going to walk you through all 3. Door number 1, the best case scenario. Kerby's knee responds well during camp. He gets cleared, comes off the active PUP list before the season starts, and he's out there in Honolulu blue for week 1 like nothing ever happened. This is the dream scenario. This is the Kerby was right to talk trash scenario. If this happens, we all owe him an apology and a parade. Door number 2, and honestly, this feels like the most likely outcome based on everything we've seen. Kerby doesn't get fully cleared during camp, gets shifted to reserve PUP during cutdowns, and is forced to sit out the mandatory minimum of 4 games. Given the Lions by week, and we dug into the schedule ourselves, Detroit is sitting on a week 6 by this season. Knowing how this front office and coaching staff like to operate, cautious, methodical, no unnecessary risks with a guy who just got paid as one of the highest compensated safeties at his position, you have to wonder if they'd rather just let Kerby ride out that by week 2, rather than rushing him back for 1 game and then immediately shutting him down again for the bye. If Detroit Scope had to put a number on it, we're circling week 7 as a real possibility for Kerby's actual season debut. And wouldn't you know it, that lines up with a home matchup against the Green Bay Packers. If that's the stage Kerby Joseph picks for his return, that is not just a football game anymore. That's a moment. That's a story written for prime time. That's cinema, Detroit. And then there's door number 3, the scenario nobody wants to think about, but has to be mentioned because it's on the table. Kerby's knee just doesn't respond the way everyone's hoping, and this whole thing snowballs into a season-ending situation, or worse, retirement conversations. We've unfortunately seen NFL careers derailed by chronic knee issues before, and until Kerby is out there taking real contact in pads, nobody, not us, not the beat writers, not even the Lions coaching staff, it sounds like truly knows which direction this is heading. So which door is it going to be? Nobody outside that training facility actually knows right now, and anyone telling you with total certainty which path Kerby Joseph is on is guessing, just like the rest of us. Here's a silver lining buried in all this doom and gloom, though, and it's one that deserves way more attention than it's getting. Tight end Sam Laporta is nowhere to be found on this PUP list. After reports just days ago suggested Laporta had been fully cleared and given the green light, his absence from this list is exactly the kind of quiet good news Lions fans need right now. That's one less name to worry about. One more piece of the offense that looks ready to roll from day 1 of camp. Now, let's zoom out for a second, because there's a bigger conversation happening here beyond just this one roster move, and it's about the emotional temperature of this entire fan base heading into the 2026 season. There's a version of this story where Lions fans treat every single injury update like the sky is falling, and honestly, we get it. This fan base has earned the right to be a little jumpy after decades of heartbreak. But there's also a version of being a fan where you understand the process. You understand that PUP designations are routine, protocol-driven decisions that happen with basically every single team in the league, every single training camp, and you save your genuine panic for when it's actually warranted. Right now, we are not there yet. This is a let's watch and see situation, not a the season is already over situation. The concerning part isn't the paperwork. The concerning part is the lack of communication, the off-season silence, and the fact that Kerby Joseph's own tweets set expectations that reality immediately shattered. That's what stings, not the PUP list itself. And look, this Lions team has real expectations attached to it this year. 13 wins, a deep playoff run, a legitimate run at a Super Bowl. That's the kind of talk swirling around Allen Park, and rightfully so given the talent on this roster. But championship caliber teams deal with training camp speed bumps every single year. The difference between a good team and a great team often isn't whether adversity shows up in July. It's how the locker room, the coaching staff, and yes, the fan base respond when it does. So here's where Detroit Scope lands on all of this. Don't panic, but don't ignore it either. Keep an eye on that practice field. Watch for whether Kerby Joseph is standing on the sideline in a tracksuit during camp reps. Because once these guys take even a single snap in a real practice setting, that tells you everything about where their recovery actually stands. The moment any of these three players step onto that field for a real rep, this entire PUP conversation becomes background noise. Until then, relax, take a breath, unclench those fists, Lions fans. This is a wait-and-see situation, not a 5-alarm fire. Kerby Joseph's tweet might have been premature. Tyler Conklin's placement might be a genuine mystery for now, and Brian Branch's Achilles timeline was never a surprise to begin with. But none of this changes the fact that football is back, camp is starting, and there is a very real path where all three of these guys are suited up and causing problems for opposing offenses well before the calendar flips to December. And that's the story for today, Detroit. If you enjoyed this breakdown, do us a massive favor. Smash that like button. Drop a comment telling us whether you think Kerby Joseph is playing week 1 or week 7. And if you're not already subscribed, now's the time. We are so close to hitting 1,000 subscribers on Detroit Scope, and every single one of you helps us get there. Subscribe, ring that notification bell, and we will see you in the next one. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, and as always, go Lions.